With a population of just over 800,000, Indianapolis is currently the 13th largest city in the United States. Despite its relatively low crime rate in comparison with other Midwestern cities, approximately 1,000 victims of domestic violence and abuse are forced to seek refuge in emergency shelters on a daily basis. The Center for Victim and Human Rights, CVHR, helps victims of domestic abuse and sex trafficking for little or no cost. 90% of CVHR's clientele requires assistance in more than one area. Therefore, this nonprofit organization offers support to clients who are dealing with protective orders, family law, immigration, and most of all, the feeling of hopelessness when fighting alone.
And one day, she gives up on you and me because we have no options for her. And therefore, she starts normalizing this exploitation. She believes, yes, this is it. This is what my destiny is about. And this is normal to get raped by 100 men a day. And it's abnormal to live in a shelter. It's abnormal to get rehabilitated. It's in that context that I work. It's in that context that I rescue children. What has been my challenge? My challenge has not been the traffickers who beat me up. I've been beaten up more than 14 times in my life. I've lost a staff of mine who was murdered while on a rescue. My biggest challenge is a civil society. It's you and me. My biggest challenge is your blocks to accept these victims as our own.
Broadly, we help victims of crime and human rights abuses. So what that, in the past, that's meant people who have been victims of like arson, for example, victims of human trafficking. We've even helped people from other countries who have been persecuted in their own countries through asylum petitions. But our mainstay is really domestic violence. About 80% of our caseload is going to be domestic violence related.
Center for Victim and Human Rights is coming in to help us help the victims get through the non-criminal part of it. You know, I'm talking about victims might need divorce, help with a divorce. They might need help with child support. They might need orders for visitation. In addition to protective orders, they might need immigration and the U visa. So all of those things, because you know when that incident happens, you may or may not be legally bound to somebody. If you are married, if you have children together, that doesn't stop just because you got hit. So, you know, they need that additional help to sort through all of those things, because that's not something I can do as a prosecutor. I cannot jump in and help them. I can only prosecute the criminal case.
Once we decide to accept a client, we interview them, and a lot of times I've noticed that they just are they're scared. I mean, they finally decided, because a lot of our clients are domestic violence victims, you know, they finally decided to take this step and you know, try and get out of their situation, but they're still scared to do it. You know, there's so much fear behind them.
I was finishing up law school, and at that time I was working for a prosecutor's office, the Kane County State's Attorney's Office. We ended up with a case that had been pretty much overlooked by the police department. I don't know why, one can speculate why it had been overlooked and had been undercharged. Essentially, it was a case that involved serious bodily injury, and the police charged it as a misdemeanor. We put a lot of resources into that case, and we put the victim in protective custody and reinvestigated it with our investigators, and we were ready to go to trial. And the day of trial, the victim didn't show, and we had to dismiss the case. And I remember leaving the courtroom very angry that despite all of these resources we put in to working with this victim, trying to protect this victim, we failed.
They've made that victim dependent on them. So they've put them in that position. They've isolated them from their family. They've isolated them from their friends. They've not allowed them to have a job, put them on an allowance. You know, so all of those things that would, you know, give them some independence and the ability to lead when these things are happening, they don't have that.
A few weeks later, I met that victim in the parking lot of our office, and Of course, I approached the victim. I was very angry at the time, and I said, you know, this is all the resources we put in to help you and whatnot. And he hit me with a question that really sort of changed the way I look at things. And he said, what if you had won? And I thought to myself, that's a very strange question, especially from considering we're supposed to be on the same side.
When we put somebody in jail, we've taken away their entire life because that guy is in jail. And it is tremendously difficult for the victims emotionally, you know, and then we have to worry about, you know, where are they going to go? What are we going to, you know, what's going to happen?
He didn't see this the same way that I saw it as a prosecutor. He didn't see it as, we have to put this guy away. He saw this as my livelihood, my survival is at stake here.
Every domestic violence situation, there's always a matter of control. Everything comes down to control. Who's controlling this, who's controlling that. The simple fact is, you know, in a lot of domestic violence situations, I've heard, well, you know, why did you stay? I stayed for the kids. Like, they want to have this fairy tale of what people think society has placed on us, that we're supposed to have a husband and a wife and kids, and they're supposed to stay together. And so women typically will try to, you know, keep the family together because that's what they think that we're supposed to do. And so then there becomes the control. The control doesn't start from the night you get married. That's not normally how it is. It's a progression over time in which things get progressively worse. So if you're in a domestic violence situation and I'm abusing you verbally, that's typically where it begins, and you let that go, then the next time I might slap you in the face.
For Hispanics, we always think that doesn't matter what happened. If your husband kick you or tell you bad words or whatever, we have to stay there because it's our husband. We have to stay there because we have kids. My mom at that time, she used to live with me. She really loves my ex-husband. Because at one time he was a really good person with us, with my mom and me. But she was like, okay, mija, you have to think about that. It's not good for your kids. You're gonna pass a lot of struggles if you are not with your husband. It will be very difficult. And I said, you know, if it's gonna be like that, well, I have to do something.
She tried to leave, and he broke into her apartment, and he would sit at the foot of her bed watching her while she slept. And so, you know, it gets increasingly more physical and more violent. And I think at one point, Seni had just had enough.
I remember that I was asleep and I feel somebody behind me. So I turned my face and it was dark, and I looked him behind me and I asked him, what are you doing here? And he started to kick me, and he was screaming. It was really sad because he didn't stop. He doesn't care. When he finished, he get out of the house and he was like screaming, like he was happy, very happy. And he kicked my truck, he broke a window, then he left. I called the police. We did that report. They taken us pictures, and nothing happened to him. Nothing.
She actually sought the help, like from the police, from the prosecutor's office, the other organizations, but for one way or another, it always seems just fall through. And she said nobody want to help her. That's her feelings. And eventually she came to our organization, and we were able to help her to get her green card.
You know, she went out and found her own job, and she moved out, and all of those things kind of fell away. So it really empowered her. So from that perspective, I think hers is a great success story because it talks about that level of empowerment. And really what we're trying to do with the legal services is use that to give them a foothold to be empowered to take the next step.
And he was very patient. He is very patient person. And at the beginning, he told me, we're gonna do it, Seni. You're gonna have your green card, you're gonna be free here, you're gonna be legal here, you're gonna have a better future for your kids. And yeah, here I am with 3 kids and a job. I'm going to school. I'm getting prepared for my future.
There is no particular demographic of who is going to be a victim. It can be anyone from any particular socioeconomic class, any ethnic class. It really doesn't focus on one group. To be on this team, you have to have an incredible spirit of dedication, which is really the team that I have.
I'm doing what I want to do, and I think that in and of itself is success, that I was offered a position here, doing something that matters.
I agree. Like doing this work, you can never become rich, but it's really rewarding. And before I decided to do this work, I actually interned in a large law firm, and I just don't like it because I feel like this work you can actually talk with a client and really help them make a difference.
They are making our community safer by helping victims get stronger and helping victims get out of the relationships and be independent, be on their own, by helping their children, by breaking the cycle of violence. They're helping this violence not be perpetuated into the next generation.
This organization helped me with everything. At that time, it was one problem after other. It was very difficult. I'm never gonna forget 2009 when I get first with Rayo, and he gave me the support. The organization gave me the support.
I think the thing that surprises me the most about our clients and that I admire the most about our clients is the courage that they demonstrate to make the decision to walk through the door and even sit in front of us and tell us their story. I really want to say thank you to my team. They are not really going to ever know how grateful I am that they stand behind me and that they've given me this opportunity to lead them through this.
Many times when I talk to people, I keep telling them one thing. Don't tell me 100 ways how you cannot respond to this problem. Can you apply your mind for that one way that you can respond to that problem? I'm asking you, in your limited world, can you open your minds? Can you open your hearts? Can you just encompass these people too? Because they also are part of us. They're also part of this world.
What we